but I want to give all of my efforts and my primary focus on the music aspect, which is neither the thing that I'm wedded to, the thing I'm responsible for, or the thing that brings in my income. It's at that point that I think if perspective is lost, the end result inevitably will be destruction.
Yeah.
It will harm and hinder the marriage. It will devastate the relationship with the children, especially in the important young training years and even beyond. Just relationally, you could lose your job, which if the income is gone, that introduces a whole nother variety of things. And so, is it possible for every person to live every lifestyle as they can imagine?
Yeah.
And I would say, no, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
And so be mindful of that. If you think that you would be best served, and if I were to frame this up, just as a pastor, if I were to frame this up as a believer, if you believed your gift was so profound on piano that you could be a concert pianist and that was going to be the way that you glorify God in your life,
yeah,
then it may be wise to consider that before getting married, before having children, those kinds of things. And I'm not saying, that pursuing one's career as the only important thing in life is wise as well. I'm not making an assessment on whether something is wise or not.
Yeah.
Just trying to help people understand that if you are 40 years old and you're married and you have 4 children and you have a job and a house and bills, you very likely can't become a country star. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
Or a country music star or a classical concert pianist star at that point in your life.
Yeah.
And because of your other commitments.
Right.
And to pursue that, regardless of gifting and the consequences it would have on the other people involved, I think is going to cause more harm than it will good. So
Absolutely.
As it relates to priorities, I think biblically you do well to stick to the priority structure that God has given, which is first for man, his chief end is to glorify God, enjoy him forever.
Yeah.
So you love God first, you love your covenant spouse, if you have a wife or a husband, you love them second, you love your children third, they're your immediate family.
Yeah.
And then you've got church involvement, you've got work and career involvement, and then you've got maybe hobbies and preferences and those kinds of things. And so just a general rule for success in life is major on the majors, minor on the minors. If all your time is spent on something on your list that's in the 6th priority spot, inevitably your life will be upended.
Yeah.
Whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea. Keep the primary things primary, the secondary things secondary. And if that means that you're unable to chase a dream that you're desiring to chase, so be it. And coming to terms with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the Lord's will for your life,
Yeah.
It's what I'm saying. Like, you can't mess it up.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so now moving back forward into your musical career, going into college and that whole realm. So you started in business. You started out in
I never took a business class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I literally, on registration day,
Yeah.
parents are dropping me off at college. I changed, and they put me in all the classes for music.
That's
and
awesome.
so day one, I was a music major. Official day one, like first day of classes, I was a music major.
So was it like you showed up and you're like, I guess I'm doing music major. That's what I want to do. Or was it a premeditated thing?
I think it was definitely premeditated. In the sense that after I had declared business, that the months between being accepted to a college, in say March or something, and then August, or when you actually get there on campus. So it was just a growing conviction that I felt like maybe music was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it gets a whole lot more real when you're changing your class schedule and they're changing the letters next to your name, right? Like music BA, like that's what you're going to be now.
Yeah.
And to make it happen. And so thankfully, though, in God's kindness, providentially, those windows were open for me and I was able to step into them really without missing a beat.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Awesome. So you're taking music classes, and you got a master's, bachelor's.
Well, so I got my bachelor's in music.
Okay,
So that's not a.
that would be a.
Yeah, it's a bachelor's in music. So just I got a bachelor of arts in music. So
Okay.
some people can get like a bachelor of music, like you can get like a bachelor of science, like it's a science degree, as opposed to like a bachelor of arts
In music.
in science or in music.
Gotcha.
All that means is that, at least as I understood it back then, is
Yeah.
that if you do a bachelor of arts, it just means that your general education requirements are larger. You have to take more electives in the liberal arts in order to get that degree.
Right.
Because at that point it's a little more broader degree than
Yeah.
maybe something like a bachelor's of music and composition, which
Yeah.
would mean you probably have a few electives, but the primary thrust is going to be prepare you to be a composition,
Right.
musician
Right.
after you graduate.
Totally.
So
Yeah. So and to expand on that note, so the end goal is to essentially monetize it, is to make that your profession.
Yes.
That you are making your living off of. Right.
Yes.
So at what point? I guess I should say, when was the first time that you were able to apply the skills and knowledge you learned in college,
Yeah.
and then actually, not necessarily make a living, but
Yeah.
make money from it?
right.
Because that's a big thing, for my audience specifically. It's like if you're wanting to get into music, moving it from a hobby
Yeah.
to, a profession.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
Oh, it's a good question. I didn't do a lot of that, but I'll give you my experience because
Okay. So what were you- sorry.
I did undergraduate in music. That was 4 years.
Okay.
And then after that, I did a master's of vocal performance at USC almost immediately after.
Gotcha.
And that was 2 years. And by the time that was done, I was more or less no longer a professional musician.
Okay.
So the majority of my time as a professional musician was under a season in college, which meant I was essentially living off student loans.
Yeah.
So that's not really monetizing your
Right,
career.
right.
Now, that's not to say I didn't make money. There are good ways to make money in music. You just have to look for the right opportunities.
yeah.
So, for example, this would have been back in 2010 when I was a junior. I auditioned and was selected to be in the San Diego Opera Chorus, which at the time paid like $36.50 an hour.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's a long time ago. So it was quite a chunk of money back then. I mean, I
Yeah.
had friends working in the bookstore who were making $8.50, $9 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you think about that, and
Yeah.
well, now granted, it was seasonal. There were only 4 of those a year. I was only in one my junior year, 2 my senior year.
Gotcha.
So there was a ability to make good money.
Right.
But in undergraduate, I mean, my parents were helping me with college, so
Yeah.
it's not like I was providing for rent on my own.
Right.
So I would say to truly monetize a music career is difficult. It's not
Yeah.
impossible,
Yeah.
but it's difficult.
Would you say that you have to go mainstream in order to?
No, definitely not. In fact, I would say that the majority of people who make a living as a musician are not mainstream.
Yeah.
They are...
I don't think that that's a well-known
Yeah.
fact. A lot of people don't realize that.
Right. Yeah. So, like for example, when I was in LA, some of my friends did eventually become, and the people I knew were professional singers, right?
Okay.
And so this is what it looks like. It looks like a life of a lot of various things
Yeah.
to put together your income package instead of I work one job at a company and I get a bi-weekly check.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So for example, they would sing in the opera chorus with the Los Angeles Opera.
Gotcha.
That's one thing they would do. They would sing in the Los Angeles Master Chorale. That's another thing they would do, right? They would make income from those. And they're good money because those are union gigs.
Yeah.
So that was good. They would do performances and recitals and singing engagements that they would get hired for around LA, right? Some of them would teach voice lessons. So you're teaching voice lessons. So it looks like you need 6, 7, 8 venues to pull income from.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah.
Now, if you could say you start a YouTube channel for something, some type of musical instruction or some kind of songs for kids, whatever it may be, and then it ends up becoming very popular, that would be great.
Monetizing,
That's
yeah.
probably the minority of people, I would think.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, you think about we have a few people in our church that are musicians, right? And they teach private instruction, and they play and sing in, with symphonies, and do the Philharmonic, and they do those kinds of things.
Right.
And all of that is a part of bringing in the income that their family needs to survive. So if you are a person who likes to be involved in a variety of endeavors, and that's not stressful for you, it's possible that music or some sort of artistic vocation may be a good option for you.
Yeah.
But if you like the security of knowing how much money you're going to have and when you're going to have it, probably not the best vocation for you.
Okay.
Because I remember too, the other thing too is, as an independent contractor, companies that pay you are not withholding taxes. Yeah. So you do a gig, whatever it may be, and they give you just a lump sum of money. Mm-hmm. And inevitably, there were a lot of times when I just needed that money. I needed all of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't put any money aside, which meant when it was time to file my taxes, I got hit with some pretty big, like, you owe this much money. Like, a lot of career people, or maybe they do think about it, but a lot of people forget that just, the taxes that they pay every year are automatically taken out of their paycheck month to month. It's in the system. Like, you don't ever see it. Yeah. It's almost, it just goes to the government, and then they give you some back. If you get some back, you pay some more. But typically people will withhold enough so that they don't owe money at the end of the year. They'll maybe get a little bit back. And so in that regard, I just remember how crushing that was, to feel like, oh man, I know I didn't realize I should have been withholding this much percentage of all of these things so that at the end of the year I could actually pay my taxes. Yeah. So that was tough. That was a tough wake-up call.
I can imagine. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this more of a statement than a question, but being that kind of a musician is definitely a form of entrepreneurship.
Oh, absolutely.
So
no doubt.
It's, even just from listening to this, you talk about this for 5 minutes, I can 100%. Tell it's, and obviously, there's different kinds of being a musician as well, where we're talking about, you had mentioned country music, where it's like, you almost need a record deal to have any kind of success. Now, there are those few and far between artists that are very successful that do not have record deals and are not mainstream per se, but yeah. And now I have a couple quick questions for you. The first one to go off of that is, what advice would you have for somebody that is their dream? As in having a record deal and become, the fame and the money and everything that comes with that. It's like, what advice would you?
That's a great question. Yeah. And one of the things that would be said in circles as it relates to, so I spent a significant, or a chunk of time, I should say it wasn't super significant, a couple of years, but some time singing opera. And they always used to say, if you can imagine yourself doing anything other than this when you get up in the morning, you should go do it. Because
that's so good.
Because the reality is, when you don't have money for food, when you are having to drive and you're stretched thin and you're flying all over the place and you can't pay your taxes, and just the constant striving to make it to a level, and making it is different for everyone, right? Some people think making it looks like Taylor Swift. It's like, well, good luck. You know what I mean? Exactly. But for other people, making it is, I actually, within the course of a year, can pay all my bills. Yeah. That's making it. That's it. I am not negative. I am positive. I'm in the black, even if it's just a little bit. Yeah. That's making it for some people, and they're very content with that. Yeah. But that's the reality, is you have to be so driven and persuaded that this is what I want to do. It's what I feel like I have to do. That it carries you through a lot of things. And that just wasn't me. Yeah. I remember I sang opera one summer with a conductor who was from Germany. Okay. And he was very complimentary and said, I love the tone of your voice. I think you're a great singer. Yeah. You need to come to Germany and be one of the studio artists, apprentice. I forget what it's called now. It's just been so long, but